Melt.
Senator Booker and Paul and I are introducing this new bill, the CARES Act, which would recognize that marijuana has accepted medical uses and would recognize the will of voters in 23 states that have decided that denying families access is wrong. The bipartisan bill would finally allow patients and families, including veterans, in those 23 states to access medical care without fear of prosecution. It also reschedules medical marijuana to a Schedule II drug as opposed to a Schedule I drug, which is what, as Senator Paul said, would allow more research. It would also lift bureaucratic restraints so that this research can be conducted across the country and by CDC.
We, as a society, are changing our opinions on restricting people's choices as far as medical treatments. And there are thousands of people in our country, probably tens of thousands of people in our country, who have diseases that are incurable and that would like to seek palliative treatment. Many people have been finding relief, but some people are prevented from having that. The laws aren't uniform, and there are still federal laws that prevent states, even states that have legalized medical marijuana. A little over 20 states have medical marijuana, and yet there are still federal rules that make it difficult. I just came back from Colorado, and the biggest thing they were asking me is, we want banking to be legal. We're legitimate enterprises now. We want to be able to put our money in a bank. My guess is that even more tax money will be paid if they're allowed to keep their money in banks and not brown bags. So I think there's every reason to try to give more ease to people in the states who want this, more freedom for states and individuals.
Today, we join together to say enough is enough. Our federal government has long overstepped the boundaries of common sense, fiscal prudence, and compassion with its marijuana laws.
Are you high? What are you talking about?
It's the full melt.
Give me a break. The Full Melt Show. A marijuana discussion about news, culture, politics, and lifestyle. FullMelt.com. Toll free. 844-420-TALK. 844-420-TALK.
Welcome to the program. Listen, it's been an exciting day, a very exciting day, in fact, in the world of cannabis and medical marijuana, really across the board. Big exciting day. Some amazing news today coming from ASA. They were the ones that I posted, and I know they work principally with the legislators at the national level to get this stuff done. There was an announcement today coming out of the Senate that you just heard at the front of this program that talks about the way that they're looking at maybe modifying medical marijuana from the standpoint of a federal position. And this has been something that's been really, this is on and on. Every year they put stuff forward. The fringe, quote unquote, fringe has put stuff forward from different places. It never goes anywhere. It's dead on arrival. Then suddenly last year you get this change in position with passage of the omnibus spending bill, which included, they managed to squeeze it in even through the reconciliation process. This part about you can't use federal funds in the Department of Justice for raids in states where they have either made modifications to their own laws for the allowance of retail cannabis or medical marijuana. And as it turns out, that was really just a token piece of legislation because from a practical standpoint, it doesn't have any effect. But it was the first change that you saw coming from a legitimate place inside our nation's house of bill making, the legislature, Congress, that turned the page maybe. That started to, you could see the page was about to be turned. I was really hopeful that this would be the case. And if you look at this, today, this new bill that the Senate put forward, the people that signed on to it and the things that it tries to do are really rather amazing. I mean, they adjust banking. They adjust the federal position kind of in a permanent way. It codifies what the federal position is on this subject when it comes to medical marijuana. It reschedules marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2. And, it also has effect in other places, meaningful places. And so I wanted today to kind of focus on that. But then as it relates to yesterday's show, things are happening here in our own state in Michigan. And it seems that there are some other things to talk about as well. Those things would be the idea that people where they don't have retail cannabis, which is most of the country, obviously, a vast majority of the country has no allowance for any cannabis of any kind. But in places where they're trying to be more like Colorado, they're doing this in a bit of a different way. And there's some objection to it. And the way that they're going about this is they're taking this petition initiative drive away, and they're not doing it legislatively. They're not coming in as a legislature and taking the cojones in space and doing something about it. They're not taking that initiative drive away by precluding it with their own legislation and branding it the way they want it to be. What they're doing is they're talking with these special interest groups that have large investment capital, where they're willing to put this capital out there to get the petition drives done. So now they're coming in as a funding source to get these petition drives done. But the petition drive takes away, in many cases, personal grow rights. It eliminates patient caregiver rights. And it gives some kind of permanence to who is allowed to grow it. It grants special permission to these people, these particular entities. In all of these cases across the country, as these come, I think I don't know where this started actually, but I saw it first pop up in Ohio. As we talked about that yesterday, and now I'm seeing it here in Michigan. And it seems that other people are pointing out that this is kind of a new idea, big business idea, investment capital idea, where they want to take this and just kind of, we want to take control of this space. We're going to put a big footprint down. And, good luck competing with us. We're going to be the Walmart of weed. But what effect does that have? That might be great as far as maybe, passing some allowance for possession and use and that kind of thing. Sales and control of the actual production, manufacturing, processing, all that is done by a select few, people granted this special permission, many times codified right down to the level of the state constitution where they're occupying, where they're putting up their building, their brick and mortar, or fencing in their big grow. If they're going to probably let them do it outside, who knows? But this is a different point of view, because when you start bringing in big money and you start looking at, I guess in the first place, when California brought the initiative back in 97 or back in 96 in place to do medical marijuana, they said, look, there should be an allowance for medical people. And then California did it, and some other people followed suit, and some other people stood up and said, look, this is nothing but this is just a straight path to retail. I mean, this is just a skirt. I mean, you're hiding behind a skirt here. You say medical, but really this is all about making some money at selling weed, isn't it? I mean, that's really the big push, isn't it? That was the question put forth. But I don't know if if the answer is yes to that question. I think it is. But when you parade around and hide behind medical people and use them as pawns, if that's indeed your plan, to get a retail position in place, so there's some commerce going on here, so that there's some social acceptance and some tax base, some tax money being made. It's good for the government. It's good for the people. Hey, you're not spending money in prisons, and you're not tying up police with frivolous details about this so much. It's certainly a lesser crime, isn't it? So it's a great idea. But if you're going to parade around the medical people to get to that place, if you're going to use them as a pawn to get to the main stake, then how can you then throw them aside and throw away all the industry and all of the prop-up business that has gone into place since you passed the medical marijuana law? In Ohio, they're doing it at the same time. In Michigan, they're trying to clean up the medical marijuana law because they put some bad law into place, and it got bounced around in courts and minimized and pretty much gutted. So they're trying to fix that. But at the same time, there's these other people coming in wanting to do a capital thing. So our guest on the program today is a lady from ASA. Carrie Boyder is out in Washington State. And if I've got the buttons, I'm going to have to get to the buttons. Hold on. There. Carrie, are you with me?
I am. Thanks for having me on the show, Steve.
Thanks for taking the time to come on. Gosh, it's been an interesting day today.
Yeah, a huge day on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., getting some major federal progress on, Schedule 1 controlled substance of marijuana, banking, research, veterans, states' rights, CBD, just a whole host of things contained in that wonderful piece of legislation we saw today. Now,
we're only going to have a couple seconds here before we hit the break. I just kind of wanted to introduce this topic. But can you once again go over, because we had some at the front, a basic announcement of what these bills do. But I know that you know this bill well. Can you give us a brief overview before we go to break of what the impact of these is? Why is this kind of historic? What does this mean to everybody?
Well, we saw action in Congress in December that, passed a spending mandate that would stop the DOJ from interfering in states that make medical marijuana legal.
Right.
But we've never actually seen the Controlled Substances Act change. We've never seen marijuana move out of Schedule 1 of the Controlled Substances Act. And that's really what needs to happen in order for us to actually move forward with these state experiments. And so what this bill would do first and foremost is actually reschedule marijuana to Schedule 2, acknowledging that there is a medical use and that there's less potential for abuse than what was previously thought.
So that's the big thing. That's the big kahuna, isn't it?
That's definitely the big kahuna, but certainly for people who are trying to operate these businesses, the banking and 280E concerns that are addressed by this bill would be a big deal. And really, at the very heart of what is keeping this substance illegal and in Schedule 1 is the NIDA paradigm, the fact that we can't get any research or supply approved through NIDA, and this would definitely address the research issue.
You're talking about the National Institute. You're talking about the National Institute of Drug Abuse.
That's correct. And right now, they have to sign off on any sort of medical research of marijuana.
Okay, so hang on for 1 second, Carrie. We're going into break. So now you got the headline right there. If we come back after break, we're going to talk about some more about this particular bill and maybe where it could be going, what it'll end up meaning if they get something the rest of the way through Congress. And then we'll talk about the big box issue and what it means to medical patients. Be right back.
You're getting the full melt.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at Canalock.com. Visit Canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Well, this formula is specifically to grow cannabis.
That's Ray Kogo for Kogo's Original Cannabis Formula Nutrients.
Now, everybody knows that large buds and tight buds come from genetics, and then the amount of light you use. The other part is having the correct nutrients that the plant's going to use. Mine specifically to grow cannabis, so it's going to get everything that it needs.
Ray knows what you may not. Those nutrient companies you can get in most grow shops are not cannabis specific. That means they take the stuff out of the bloom that your plant needs in bloom. You can get Kogo's Original Cannabis Formula Nutrients too. It's just 2 1-gallon jugs that make over 600 gallons of nutrients, all for less than $100. See the difference for yourself.
More trichomes, bigger buds, faster growth, and for less money.
Go to CANNABISformula.com or call Ray direct at 517-375-8998. That's 517-375-8998. Kogo's Original Cannabis Formula Nutrients.
Does your dog or cat suffer with joint disorders, arthritis, anxiety, cancer, chronic pain, or other ailments? Hemp or cannabis-based medicinal products are now legal. Why should your pets go without the same options that we have available? Try Sativus, a daily hemp oil with CBD. Sativus is quality inspected and made in the USA. Easy to use drops are applied directly to your pet's food. For your pet's wellness, try Sutibis drops. Ask for Sutibis at your local pet store or learn more at petpain.com.
You know, it's not easy out there, but it can be easier. And when it comes to medical marijuana in Michigan and chronic pain management, Dr. Bob Townsend, renowned for his patient advocacy and deep understanding of how patients and medical marijuana certifications fit together, makes it his hallmark to educate and provide the best holistic treatment for your condition. His knowledgeable staff makes you feel warm and welcome, and Dr. Bob makes you feel well. With locations across the state in Cadillac and Gaylord, Kalamazoo, Marquette, Mount Pleasant, Muskegon, Saginaw, Traverse City, you can't beat the convenience and feeling you get knowing you have someone on your side that cares. Denali Healthcare is on the web at denalihealthcaremi.com. Get answers to your holistic health questions or schedule an appointment now by calling 989-339-4464. Chronic pain management and holistic health answers is what they do. It's all they do. DenaliHealthcareMI.com. Get your certification and peace of mind now by making an appointment with Dr. Bob Townsend at 989-339-4464.
In this cold weather, I suffer many aches and pains, which keep me from doing the things I enjoy, like playing the piano, crafting, and spending time with my grandchildren. Toledo Hemp Center, 1419 Sylvania Avenue, has shown me there is an alternative to pharmaceutical drugs. I use CBD, cannabidiol-infused hemp lotions, oral sprays, and topical oils. Thank you, Toledo Hemp Center, for helping me restore and maintain my health with no side effects and no high. Find out more at ToledoHempCenter.com.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
All right, so the big news. Senate introduces National Medical Marijuana Bill. Really, that's what I would call it. That's what I would say it is a National Medical Marijuana Bill. Would you say that that's what it is as well? Carrie? Can you hear me, Carrie? Did we lose Carrie? Looks like we might have lost Carrie. So, hey, Ryan, could you try and get Carrie back on the line? Looks like we might have lost Carrie. I don't know what happened there. I'm not sure what happened. But either way, what I'll have to do is... Yeah, that was weird. So, I think that's what it is. I think that when you look at this... It is national. Oh, we hit the wrong button there, Ryan. Bottom row, Ryan. There we go. You know what? I'm just going to text her. I'll just call her while we're on the air here. It's yeah. Don't hit the top row. Okay. So, pulling up the. There we go. Calling back now. Let me see if we can get her this time. We got her here? Here. Looks like any second now. Okay, here we go. We lost you there.
I'm back. Thanks again for having me.
So what I was asking you is, do you think that, wouldn't you label this a national medical marijuana bill?
Yes, this definitely deals with a lot of the hurdles that we've been facing on the federal level, which is stopping us from successfully implementing state-level policies.
Now, if this ends up getting passed, this is going to have major impact. I mean, this is going to really open the gateway to people be able to do some research and studies and have some information, some data to back any future moves that they may or may not do.
Yeah, that's right. In addition to the rescheduling and the banking issues, it deals with research. And specifically what it does on the research angle is it removes the Public Health Service review as well as what we call the NIDA monopoly. Right now, NIDA is the only person who can provide marijuana for research in the U.S. And the problem is that NIDA typically rejects all requests for marijuana that's used in research that would prove the benefits of medical marijuana. So right now, NIDA is only there to study the drug abuse potential of marijuana. And so they've been able to, basically keep any major research from happening in the U.S., which is, of course, used as an excuse for why we can't remove it from Schedule 1. some of the other huge things that it would do is veterans issues. It would actually allow the Veterans Administration to recommend medical cannabis directly instead of just honoring recommendations from other doctors, which is a huge step for helping get this service covered for veterans who served our country honorably. And it would also actually completely remove CBD from the Controlled Substances Act and create an exclusion for that. So, identifying it separately from the rest of the plant marijuana.
This is a big deal because hitherto now, there's been no admittance by the federal government in way of even Congress coming forth and saying that medical marijuana is something that exists, something that's real. There is no medical marijuana. I've seen this statement a couple of times before from many congressmen. Well, there is no such thing. You get lobbyists coming forth and saying, hey, what about medical marijuana? What medical marijuana? There is no medical marijuana. Now you've got senators, the more conservative, the more thoughtful group of the two houses of our Congress, stepping forth and saying, okay, not only is there medical marijuana, but here are all the things that we need to address about it. That's a big statement to me.
Yeah, and I think the first big step in that statement was in December when the president signed into law a spending mandate that specifically mentioned state legal medical marijuana. And that was the first time on the federal level that the word medical had been used in conjunction with marijuana ever. And that was, of course, passed by Congress in both bodies as well as signed into law by the president. So I think that was the very first big step towards moving this out of Schedule 1, because you can no longer deny that there's medical value when Congress has passed a spending mandate based on medical value.
When you put this into practical play, there are a lot of people going to take advantage of this right away. Yes?
Yeah, I mean, I think the very first people who are going to be able to benefit are families who are treating, children and others with high CBD varieties of medicine. Right now, what's happened is that, there's a lot of people who found a benefit to these strains, but they're unable to get them in their states, whether it's legal or illegal. Even in states where medical marijuana is legal, it's very tough to find some of these high CBD strains. So this would actually allow things like providing a high CBD strain through the mail, through the internet, going to Washington State and taking it back home with you. This would allow things like that to happen because CBD in and of itself would no longer be part of the Controlled Substances Act.
Our guest all hour is Carrie Boyder from ASA. Carrie, what's your official title with ASA?
I'm a legislative analyst.
So you're connected a lot with the inward workings of the language of the law.
Yes, that's right. A policy nerd, for lack of a better term.
Well, I like the way you characterize it. I wouldn't have done so. But it's a great, a great coined phrase. Hopefully later during the hour, I asked Keith Stroop from Normal to come on and talk additionally about. Now, he's not going to be on, but I want to bring the subject up because this is a bit of a different subject. It's nice to see Congress maybe setting the stage for some forward movement because there are a lot of states that are looking to take advantage and make some forward movement and either do or don't in many categories. Should we do medical? Should we do recreational? We need the tax money. Should we be looking at this as legislators? And so it takes movement from Congress like this for those guys to take these other steps in states comfortably. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and I mean, what I think we've seen in Congress is a real cohesiveness in our movement that we had not seen up until recently. And all of the groups have worked together in tandem to help move these bills along. And all the progress that we're seeing is a result of a lot of hard work by a lot of different groups who really worked together to accomplish this big change. And I think it's indicative of the fact that we still have so much more work left to do. And when we really join forces and fight together, we can get a lot more accomplished.
If you want to call and ask a question or make a comment about the conversation we're having today, both about the Senate bill that was introduced today, go ahead and tell me the name of that Senate bill. I don't have it right in front of me. It's a lengthy name. It's kind of a strange. I think they were looking to make an acronym somehow and made the acronym into something to kind of explain what the bill is. Can you tell us what it is, the name of that bill?
Yes. The easiest way to remember it is the CARERS Act.
The CARES
Careers.
Act. Careers Act.
Yes.
Careers.
And it's about research and access I don't know the exact acronym and what it stands for yet, and I should know that better, but
okay.
Still getting the hang of it myself. A lot of different words in those letters.
You know what? It's right here. It's the Compassionate Access, Research Expansion, and Respect States Act.
It's quite a mouthful.
CARES. It's CARES. Compassionate Access, Research Expansion, and Respect States Act. So those are 3 good steps. I mean, giving access to people who need it medically. It's allowing for research expansion, and it's respecting states' rights where they've allowed for medical access to take place, where the federal government's not going to interfere in those places anymore. Look, we're hands-off, guys. We're putting this in your hands, and we're descheduling it to Schedule 2, so now we can do some more research and get some more numbers in, and you guys can act accordingly. This is a free market.
Yeah, and I think what they've done here is combined a few different bills that we've seen in Congress before. I know that Representative Blumenauer out of Oregon has introduced the States' Rights Act before, so that's probably, the respecting states' rights portion of it, and as well as the Veterans Equal Access Act that has just recently come out, and so that would include the veterans portion of this bill. Research has certainly been a hurdle we've been trying to tackle for many years, and so this just kind of takes all the issues that we've brought up on Capitol Hill in the past and puts them into one comprehensive piece of legislation.
I didn't mention the number. It's 1-844-420-TALK. 1-844-420-TALK. It's a toll-free number anywhere in the United States. So the subject that I wanted to bring up when I talked about Keith Stroop was this big box idea. It's tied into this because, I explained at the front of the show that we were talking about Ohio yesterday and their push, and they've got 4 different ballot initiatives going forth that they're trying to put together. Some of them in better stages than others. Some of them more organized. Some of them with more money in various different places. 4 of them. To me, that's an amazing statement just by itself. They don't have any medical cannabis or retail cannabis laws on the books there. And they're trying to do this in one fell swoop with a ballot petition, but they've got 4 different guys pushing forward 4 different ideas. 4 different proposals anyway, which is a lot of people. The reason that I brought them up is because the people there are like, one of these petitions is we know it as Responsible Ohio, RO we call it. They're labeling like a monopoly type position, where you've got 10 big grows in the state. That's all that's allowed. They divide up the state into 10 parcels and 10 growers, 10 licenses. And those people are principally the investors that are putting together the money to get the petition drive done. People that own stakes in those places. They're already kind of set up in those places, hoping that this works out. They got a lot of money. They can make those investments. And they're trying to throw under the bus a little bit some of the rights that are enjoyed in places that have done this kind of slowly or step by step. And some of that being right to grow. So look, I can go buy my weed just as a retail method out at the retail weed shop, whatever that is. But I can't grow it here. Why would that be? Is there a reason for that? I don't know. It seems like the reason for that would be to maintain their profit motive in having the retail establishment. There's a lot of, let's face it, that's a very expensive venture. The whole 9 yards of it's very expensive. But it's also extremely profitable, especially if you can occupy that niche. And so corporate America is coming in and swinging this way, but initially that proposal in Ohio said, look, you can't have home grows. We're going to outlaw home grows. And then when they did the research on this and the polling kind of came back and the popular opinion said, look, we don't like that idea. We like the idea of having, access to marijuana on a retail and on a medical basis, but we don't like the idea of you saying you can't grow it. So they modified their position and said, okay, we're going to allow you to grow as an adult, anybody, 4 plants. And I think there's a larger allowance for if you're a medical patient. But there's still high limitations on it, and I think it's left open to license application, both maybe at the state and at the local level. You might have to apply for a license that might be very expensive. They might make this unaffordable. They might make it so that it's not cost beneficial to do this. So that buying it at the retail store makes a lot more sense than setting up all this stuff at home and applying for these licenses and giving up rights. Maybe they got to come in and check it, make sure you're doing it right. But if you're a medical guy None of that makes any sense to you. You're not, in the first place, if you've got medical situation going on, maybe you've got a need that needs some addressing from a standpoint of maybe fairness and cost. So maybe you should not have to pay taxes on it. Maybe you should have a lower price made available to you. Something to address the idea that you're not just recreating here. You've got some medical necessity involved. And so a lot of those guys, the rights in these situations where these big box, I call them big bag retailers. I think that's funny, big bag retailer. Have trying to carved out their own space and said, you know what, we don't care about the medical people. And the vast majority are not medical people anyways. Well, let them just operate under the same umbrella as everybody else. We don't care. And I think that's kind of a rough position to take, especially when you've used these people's, personas, their images, they're dragging them through state legislators saying, look, we need medical marijuana. Look at the people that need this. These are credible. Can you feel some empathy for these people? And how do you do that and then turn around and say, we really don't care about you. We really wanted to just use you to get them to pay attention to us so we could get the retail thing done. We're done with you now. Thank you. Goodbye. You're dismissed. That's a really rough position to take. And there are a lot of people that are willing to do that. A lot of people just in the black market retail cannabis position now. And so I think when you do that, you create a big rift in our own community. So the black market people that are just recreating with marijuana right now, where there's no right for it, you just go to jail, are currently involved in this position where they've got to, kind of sneak around, and they're willing to say, you know what, I don't care if I don't really want to grow it anyways. I just want to go buy it. I want to have it, and I want the cops to take me to jail. And I'm willing to throw the patients under the bus. I'm not a sick person. It doesn't matter to me. I still think that's a rough position to take, but there are many people currently in that place that have that point of view. So maybe these big box guys get it done. They got the money. Seems like there's enough people that are willing to go along with it, even where they were not willing to before. If this is the first option on the plate, don't you think they're going to grab that bait? That's what kind of bothers me. And so there's people with different points of view. What do you think about all of that? That's a big mouthful. That's a tall order.
Yeah, well, I think that it doesn't have to be as cut and dry as folks are making it out to be. This is like any other burgeoning industry. There is a lot of potential, and there's been a lot of innovation that has set the stage for now, up until this point. And we don't need to, discard the sacrifices of those pioneers so that now the people with the investors who are coming in can actually go ahead and profit off of that work. There's a way that everybody can actually win in this scenario. There's a way to expand the pie, if you will, and let everybody be able to have a piece of that.
Listen, we're getting ready to go to break again. Hang on to that thought, because when we come back from the break, I want to read you this business, because I proposed that Keith Stroop from Normal, national organizer of Normal, come on. And he gave me a statement. He wasn't able to come on the air today, but I'll read that statement, and we'll pick it up from there on the other side of the commercial break. Hang on just a moment.
You're getting the full melt.
If you or someone you know received a traffic ticket, has been charged with a misdemeanor, drinking and driving, criminal offense, or has had their driver's license taken away, they need an attorney. They need attorney Glenn McCandless. He's helped hundreds of people solve their legal problems over the past 16 years.
My law firm is dedicated to providing quality legal services at affordable rates.
Call us at 586-755-2900. Again, that's 586-755-2900. Call now.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience, bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Dorr Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at canalock.com. Visit Canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
In this cold weather, I suffer many aches and pains, which keep me from doing the things I enjoy, like playing the piano, crafting, and spending time with my grandchildren. Toledo Hemp Center, 1419 Sylvania Avenue, has shown me there is an alternative to pharmaceutical drugs. I use CBD, cannabidiol, infused hemp lotions, oral sprays, and topical oils. Thank you, Toledo Hemp Center, for helping me restore and maintain my health with no side effects and no high. Find out more at ToledoHempCenter.com.
Does your dog or cat suffer with joint disorders, arthritis, anxiety, cancer, chronic pain, or other ailments? Hemp or cannabis-based medicinal products are now legal. Why should your pets go without the same options that we have available? Try Sativus, a daily hemp oil with CBD. Sativus is quality inspected and made in the USA. Easy-to-use drops are applied directly to your pet's food. For your pet's wellness, try Sativus drops. Ask for Sativus at your local pet store or learn more at petpain.com.
Hey, so you may want to write this down. Whatever you do have to listen to the show this Thursday live to get some great background on the cannabis issue from a New York Times best-selling author. We have him live from London, and we'll be taking your calls here at 1-844-420-TALK. Now, the book was called Terrific by Bill Maher, Johann Hari's New York Times bestseller, Chasing the Scream, the first and last days of the war on drugs, will be our guest. It's what you get in the Full Melt this Thursday. Live, Johann Hari from London, and a fascinating look behind the curtain. Lock us in Thursday night at 7 Eastern.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
I lock myself in a hotel room.
If you get a chance on the front page there on thefullmelt.com, make sure you get it up the top of the page and click on the Facebook. Like us on Facebook, like us on Twitter. There's 2 links right there. Makes that easy for you. Also, if you get a chance, click on the Spreaker link and like and follow us there. That helps us out a lot. We're talking today with Carrie Boyder from ASA. Carrie, thanks for hanging on through the break with us. Are you still there?
Good. Okay, good.
Are you still there, Carrie? Can you hear us?
Hi, Shelly.
Uh-oh. It looks, hey, she's not paying attention right now. That's okay. I wanted to read you this thing, and let me pull up Carrie again. Carrie, are you paying attention? Are you there?
Yes.
Okay. So I wanted to read you this bit from Keith Stroop because I wanted him to come on and represent this position. I'm glad that he at least gave me this because he was unable to attend the program tonight. But he says, in summary, I'm quoting for you, if marijuana is fully legalized for all adults, then there's no need for a parallel market for medical users. They could avoid their current need to pay a pot doc and just buy the marijuana they need at the same place the rest of us would buy our weed. Both medical and recreational users should have the legal right to grow a few plants for their own personal use. The vast majority of marijuana smokers in this country are not sick people using it for medical reasons. Rather, they're overwhelmingly recreational users who enjoy relaxing with a joint in the evening just as millions of Americans enjoy a beer or a glass of wine. So medical use alone is insufficient to protect the vast majority of the marijuana smokers from arrest and jail. He says, thanks for asking. So that is the position. It's, look, we kind of have to get past the medical thing here and see if we can't make sure that we get some input from the rest of the population, which is really the majority of us. So this is a democracy. We're trying to do this for everybody, not just a group of people.
Right. I mean, and I would say that, you know, while medical may not be sufficient for those who do not have serious illnesses, that does not mean that the recreational market is the appropriate place for those who do have serious illnesses. What we're seeing here in Washington State is a big difference in what you'd find in a recreational store versus a medical store. And it really boils down to products, proximity, prices, and prohibitions. And to start with, it's the prices. The products that we're seeing in recreational stores right now are about $15 to $50 per piece. That's for an edible. One edible could cost you $15 at a bare minimum, and that doesn't even include the taxes that are levied onto that. The products themselves are very, very different. When you go into a recreational store, what you're going to find is really mainly edibles only. You're going to find high sugar content in those edibles. You're not going to find the gluten-free and sugar-free edibles like you'd find in medical for people with diabetes and food sensitivities. You're also not going to find transdermal remedies, topicals, tinctures, sublingual remedies. Really all that they have in these adult use stores, at least at this point, is flour and edibles. And for people who have true serious illnesses, that's not enough. There's also rules that pertain to recreational stores. Here in Washington, there's actually proximity limitations as to how close a store can be to things like schools, childcare. Now, some of those are certainly in line with federal law, but there's also things like libraries, recreation centers, video game arcades, transit centers that have nothing to do with federal law at all. And so when you have a 1,000-foot buffer zone between a public transit center and a store, you're asking a medical patient to go 1,000 feet, the distance of 3 football fields, to get from that public transit center to a recreational store. And that's a long distance for people who are relying on public transit. And that doesn't even get into the special prohibitions that are put in place in order to reduce access, reduce the potential for harm, reduce the potential for abuse within the adult use system. Things like they don't allow promotional giveaways, because with promotional giveaways come things like dependency. But if you don't allow promotional giveaways, then how are you going to donate medicine in that scenario? Things like the 10 milligram cap on a serving. Well, when you're talking about a 10 milligram cap for a patient, you're now asking a patient to buy between 10 and 50 edibles in order to get their standard daily serving at $15 to $50 a pop. That's just simply not affordable, especially since health insurance isn't paying for it. So maybe down the road, when these stores are up and running and all of the products that are there are actually at an affordable price, then maybe at that point we could say that, yes, indeed, medical patients could be served by that market. But right now, that's simply not the case. And to turn a blind eye to the needs of the seriously ill patients who came before these users, who paved the way for legalization, is just cruel. Nobody who voted for legalization wanted to make it harder for patients to get their medicine. Nobody who voted for legalization wanted to trade the handcuffs off of an adult user and onto a patient. What we need to be doing here and focusing on is how do we create less criminal penalties for marijuana, not swap out criminal penalties for one group in line for another. And I think that's where we would differ in our opinions.
That's an interesting point of view. Listen, I wanted to ask a question of you. We got a caller from Cleveland. Would you be interested in entertaining a call?
Yes, absolutely.
Stand by. So I'm going to join the call here now. Wolfman from Cleveland, you've got a comment.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing well.
Yeah, so I was listening last night because I got a link from my buddies over here, the Ohio Rights Group, that he was going to be on speaking. And, it was the first that I had heard that. Then this Responsible Ohio movement starts changing and mixing things up there in Michigan, saying, oh, wait, that sounds like a really great idea. How can we really profit off of this? And turn it back to big business, which, notably kept it away from being a medical option. But what concerned me was, I think it was a woman from the Responsible Ohioans for Cannabis.
ROC.
It brought up something about, the ROC. It brought up something about the backers of this Responsible Ohio Amendment possibly being, in cahoots with the normal, and how any of that happened in California. And I'm wondering, is it spreading? Is this something? Is that the only way that it's going to be legal? Is if you got the money behind it and that's it? Is it ever going to really be something where it's for the people?
I've got a comment or an answer to that question. I think anytime you're getting something done politically, there's horse trading going on, and the people with money always come in and say, look, give us some space, let us own a lot of this place. And if you don't give it to them, they'll either fight you against it or lobby it out. Just to make sure it doesn't happen. Carrie, do you...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would just add to that, that yes, politics is the art of compromise, but that doesn't mean you have to compromise all of your principles, all of your morals, everything you stand for to get a win. What is the cost of that win? And that's what we're at the stage now with legalization. It used to be very easy. We all agreed because we wanted legalization. We wanted people to stop going to jail for cannabis. And that was so far away into the future that getting there wasn't really that important. Well, now we're here. The future is now. And now we have to decide, what is legalization? What's really legal? What does legalization mean to me? And that's different for every single person. For some people, that means lower prices, more access, being able to grow it in their own backyard. For other people, that means being able to make a lot of money off of this substance. And for still others, that means it's not legal until it's completely removed from the Controlled Substances Act altogether. So until we get to that point, which is the place that everybody used to start from, what has happened is that we've let ourselves get divided, on this theory of what is real legalization. And the reality is we still have criminal penalties on the books for marijuana. So we're not there yet, and that means we need to continue to work together to get there. And as long as we're allowing ourselves, really dividing ourselves, that makes it easier for our opponents to conquer us.
Wolfman, what's your position on this? I mean, are you for the big box retailer, or are you more like for the free market solution?
I'm for the free market solution.
You want the free market to take realm. You're like, screw these guys that are trying to do the monopoly routine.
Yeah. I don't see anything, beneficial at this point for that. There's the argument that it will move things forward, that okay, if this passes, then we can work on changing the language down the line to make the amendment on this amendment. But, from my understanding, it's not that easy. If they're spending $20 million on this campaign to get this push, to get these signatures, to get this passed, they're not going to turn around and say, oh, well, okay, I guess I'll let you grow it and you can make money.
They're going to protect that market space, right? Wolfman, thanks.
Yeah, they want to protect it at all costs because they see it, it's now or never. They need to make it happen. They need to get on the bandwagon while the money's still theirs to be getting.
Real quick, I wanted to ask, because you're in Ohio, where do you see this thing going there? I mean, would you be willing to vote for the if the RO amendment comes forth and you don't see anything else on the ballot? Are you going to vote for that? Hello? I think I lost him. All right, well, that was a good question for him. Hang on a second. We'll be right back. We're coming on a break here. This is the Full Melt Show on fullmelt.com.
You're getting the Full Melt.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at canalock.com. Visit canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience, bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Dorr Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571. 571.
People believe lots of things. A recent study showed that 1 in 5 thought the sun revolved around the earth. 50% believe they can sense someone staring at the back of their head. Some fake beliefs can make you laugh, but others are dangerous. Like the misconception, recently dispelled by the American Medical Association, that marijuana has no medicinal value, which caused police departments over the past century to arrest millions. So, will cops change their minds now that medical marijuana is legalized? Just because you confront a misconception with facts, don't think that people will automatically see the light. When the issue is our perceived safety, facts and logic often do not apply. It goes beyond the simple resistance to admitting you are wrong. It has to do with how ideas take root in our brains. When we first hear something, it gets processed in an area deep in our brain called the hippocampus. But as we think about it and remember it, it gets more deeply written into our cerebral cortex. Rewriting those deep beliefs is especially hard. When false beliefs face new information, it turns out the truth doesn't always set people free.
You know, it's not easy out there, but it can be easier. And when it comes to medical marijuana in Michigan and chronic pain management, Dr. Bob Townsend, renowned for his patient advocacy and deep understanding of how patients and medical marijuana certifications fit together, makes it his hallmark to educate and provide the best holistic treatment for your condition. His knowledgeable staff makes you feel warm and welcome, and Dr. Bob makes you feel well. With locations across the state in Cadillac and Gaylord, Kalamazoo, Marquette, Mount Pleasant, Muskegon, Saginaw, Traverse City, you can't beat the convenience and feeling you get knowing you have someone on your side that cares. Denali Healthcare is on the web at denalihealthcaremi.com. Get answers to your holistic health questions or schedule an appointment now by calling 989-339-4464. Chronic pain management and holistic health answers is what they do. It's all they do. DenaliHealthcareMI.com. Get your certification and peace of mind now by making an appointment with Dr. Bob Townsend at 989-339-4464. Hey, so you may want to write this down. Whatever you do have to listen to the show this Thursday live to get some great background on the cannabis issue from a New York Times best-selling author. We have him live from London, and we'll be taking your calls here at 1-844-420-TALK. Now, the book was called Terrific by Bill Maher. Johann Hari's New York Times bestseller, Chasing the Scream, the first and last days of the war on drugs, will be our guest. It's what you get in the Full Melt this Thursday. Live, Johann Hari from London, and a fascinating look behind the curtain. Lock us in Thursday night at 7 Eastern.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
It's springtime. Things are warming up. People are reaching into their closets and their back rooms and their outdoor buildings, getting their stuff out warmed up and ready to grow across the nation. It doesn't matter where you're at. It's happening in every single state in the nation, and that's why we got to change cannabis law. Failed drug law is a horrible thing. Our guest all hour is Carrie Boyder from ASA. Carrie, welcome back on the program. This is our last segment. It's the shortest segment, but I managed to get Wolfman back. He called back on the phone. Hang on a second. I asked Wolfman before we ended. I'm going to pick up the line here. Hey, Wolfman, I wanted to ask you, since you're in Ohio, would you be willing to vote, if it's the only thing you saw come to the ballot, would you vote for the Responsible Ohio Initiative, the one that has the 10 grow thing that grants special privileges, codifies it into your Constitution that these special people get grow rights? Would you vote for them if that was the only thing?
No, that's not what we need here. I mean, what kind of a example would we be setting? I can only imagine, I can only speculate what that's going to do for the rest of the country.
Yeah.
And how that model won't just spread.
Yeah, because really we don't want that model to spread. If that takes hold, people will pick it up. I think you're right about that. That other states will look at this and say, hey, they pulled it off in Ohio. We can do this here too. Why don't we just get rid of the hippie crowd and get rid of the medical people and the skirting people? And we'll just take control of this issue ourselves and do it like that. Because there's a pathway. It's already been shown. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's already been made for us. Wouldn't you say that's right?
Right. And so for them to invest, what, $20 million they're claiming on their site, $20 million investment.
I think it's 36 now. I think it's 36.
Yeah, of course.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, all right, Wolfman, thank you for calling. I appreciate you calling the program tonight. Appreciate your opinion.
No problem. Thanks.
Listen, Carrie, you got any closing thoughts about this whole thing? I think the big stamp on this show is historic with regards to movement on the federal level on medical marijuana, at least on medical marijuana, because this really doesn't apply to retail, does it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that we have a whole lot of historic movement happening right now, definitely on the federal level. And if we can have this kind of momentum on the federal level, that should tell us a lot about what we need to sacrifice on the state level. And I think that we have two great examples in Colorado and Washington, and people just need to take a look at those programs and decide what they really want. Do they want a model like Colorado that uses the medical marijuana industry as the foundation of knowledge for their expansion into recreational, or do they want a program like Washington where recreational entrepreneurs and investors are given the first bite of the apple, and whatever is left afterwards is what medical marijuana pioneers are given?
So,
it's really as simple as that. And Ohio and Michigan and every other state that's going to be having this discussion has the ability to look at people who've already done this before them and not repeat the same mistake.
And really, in Michigan, they don't need to make another mistake because they made one in the first Medical Marijuana Act. They didn't make it clear enough. They didn't want to ask for too much and ended up having it come back and bite them in the behind later. It seems that some 7 years later, police are still chasing around patients with canes and walkers and wheelchairs. And that just, to me, seems fundamentally wrong. But,
well, correct, and that's actually one big part of what happened with Washington versus Colorado is that Colorado did the work before legalization. They licensed their medical dispensaries. They got that program up to par, and so it was very easy to expand that into legalization, whereas Washington, due to the veto by our governor in 2011, we were left with no regulations, no licensing, no way for these businesses to actually become licensed and then be the model for the adult use market. And so if I had one lesson that I would say for anybody in a position of prior to legalization, it would be do whatever you can now to get your medical marijuana program into shape. Because once legalization passes, medical marijuana will be the unregulated, untaxed competitor to the highly taxed, highly regulated legal market if you don't do something to rectify that in advance.
Well, let's be clear about what the two alternatives are, because it's not just the grow rights and all that stuff, but clearly, in Colorado, they took like you were just saying, the medical community, the licensed dispensaries, the growers, their whole medical system, and they gave it deference when they passed retail cannabis. They said, look, these are the people that we're going to license first. They know what's going on. They're familiar with it. We're in control of it. We're tracking it. We've got video cameras. We know what's going on there. We're in touch. So we're going to let them take this first because we're comfortable with this. Then, later, we'll expand it into other people who just have never done medical marijuana, don't care about medical. Well, if you guys want to apply for a license, we'll open that to you. And they just started doing that. In fact, I think they added 99 licenses just recently. So I think that's a proper way. What's proper, what's improper. I think that's a smart way to handle that kind of situation. Now, the alternative is let's take and give big business, who doesn't have any familiarity with this issue, any of this material, any of the dangers, any of the troubles, they've never gone through this path. Let's give these guys who are not connected to this medicine in any way or this substance, and let them just kind of push it forth from a commercial way. What are you going to end up with in that kind of a model? And I think that's what big bag retailers, what we're afraid of across the country, where people are smart about this and have been in tune with it, have some information to work with.
Yes, exactly. And what I've seen here is that this is like any other commodity that's out there. You have people who grow apples, and you, of course, want to have the best apple farmers come to your corporate warehouse to grow the apples for you. Right. But instead, what's happened is that they're just not opening the door to those experienced farmers. And instead, what you have is bankers now trying to grow apples and figure out how to do it really quick because they haven't made a pathway for the existing apple farmers to actually help those bankers figure it out. And of course, in this scenario, the apples are just cannabis. But it's just like any other cash crop out there. Tomatoes, apples, potatoes in Idaho. Cannabis is the new hot commodity, and we can all stand to make some sort of money, tax revenue, profit, all sorts of stuff. There's enough money out there for everyone if we just work together to expand the pie instead of shrink it and make sure we only get our piece.
Now, when you're talking about marrying those two ideas, I love that because it's harmony, it's peaceful, it doesn't destroy anybody, it doesn't create opposition. It would seem to be very easy to march to the finish line hand in hand rather than cobbled over and one person not making it to the finish line and the other person bleeding and needing medical attention. That's what I see happening here. Those are the two alternatives. How can we find a way to be the guys holding hands going across the finish line? What is the pathway there, Carrie?
Well, I think being willing to have the conversations prior to these initiatives getting put on the ballot, really making sure people understand that, yes, money is very important. You cannot pass an initiative without some sort of funding, but principles are also important. Compassion is also important. Medicine and science are important. And you don't have to abandon all of that just to get the easy win. We are at a historic crossroads in cannabis policy reform. And are we willing to take that momentum and squander it for something that's really not what we've worked for all these years? I think that it's a hard fight, but we can do the work. We've proven over all these years that we're willing to put in the time. We're willing to put in the energy. We don't have to settle. We can push forward with something better. And Colorado proved that.
Wow. Well, I hope we can pull it off because it is a difficult trick. It's an obstacle course that is full of barriers that are sometimes insurmountable. At least it's been that way in the past. I'd like to see all those barriers removed and just be able to really get there. Carrie Boyder from Americans for Safe Access, thank you so much for joining us on the program today. Love to have you back sometime in the future when it matters to you. Hello? Are you still there? It looks like I lost her. I love Carrie. She's a Spitfire. Join us on the program. Don't forget Thursday, Johan Hari live from London on his book, Chasing the Scream, the beginning and the ending of the war on drugs.
The Full Melt Show is a production of the Multimedia Digital Network.